Hello students. So today once again class 11th snapshot, another chapter, birth. This chapter is actually an excerpt from long novel Citadel, and this is just a part of that novel by A.G. Cronin. A.G. Cronin, who was a Scottish doctor also. Actually, he was not only a novelist, he was a Scottish doctor, and in World War One, in First World War, he was appointed, or we can say he worked as a surgeon. And after the war was over, he served in many good hospitals. And in 1924, he was appointed as the we can say medical inspector of mines of Great Britain. And this experience and knowledge of mines he later on used in his novel. And how from a doctor he became a writer? Actually, in 1930 he got sick, and because of that problem he was advised six months total bed rest. And during these 6 months only, he started writing. He always maybe wanted to write something to become a doctor, but he was always busy in writing prescriptions and science papers only. But now during these 6 months, he got chance to write novel. So from there only he started his journey as a novelist also, and his two novels, Citadel and one more novel. Specifically, this is about mines and mining area. And later on, both these novels were taken for movie also. And in his novel, actually, he has talked about the conflict. Actually, this is a moral issue he had raised in his novels, in his writings. The conflict between an individual and society. At certain times we have certain values which we want to follow, but maybe sometimes because of society we are failed to do so. So such conflicts are always there. So we come back to now this chapter, which is a part of novel, okay, Citadel. And in this excerpt, the story is about a couple who are expecting their first child after many years of their marriage. And this fact itself makes the case very complicated. Having baby after so many years, in the middle age, the lady is going to become mother. So this itself becomes a complicated case. Now let's start with the chapter. Though it was nearly midnight when Andrew reached Bringover, he found Joe Morgan waiting for him, walking up and down with short steps between the closed surgery and the entrance to his house. Here closed surgery means small clinic. So this doctor was having a small clinic near his house, and when this doctor reached back to his house, he saw that somebody was waiting for him. At the sight of him, the burly driller's face expressed relief. So Burley is actually very hefty looking, big, strong looking person. So this person, he expressed relief when he saw the doctor. Hey doctor, I am glad to see you. I have been back and forward here this last hour. The missus wants ye before time too. He explained, and then he told that my missus, she's about to deliver a baby, and maybe this is before time. But now we need your services. We need you. Andrew abruptly recalled from the contemplation of his own affairs. Contemplation is deep thoughts. When he was coming towards his house, maybe he was lost in his deep thoughts, and suddenly somebody started talking to him. He abruptly came back to the present. Otherwise, he was maybe lost somewhere else. Told Morgan to wait. He said, okay, you just wait. I will be there with you. He went into the house for his bag. Then together they set out for number 12 Blanner Terrace. So this is the address of this would-be father. Okay, Joe Morgan. The night air was cool and deep with quiet mystery. Usually so perceptive, Andrew now felt dull and listless. Usually so perceptive. Perceptive is when the person is always aware of his surrounding, when the person perceives everything very carefully. So this was the nature of this doctor, but today maybe because he was lost in his thoughts, so today he was not so perceptive because suddenly he realized that they had reached Joe Morgan's house. So this shows that he was maybe thinking something else, though he was walking along with Joe Morgan. Usually so perceptive, Andrew now felt dull and listless. He had no premonition that this night call would prove unusual. Actually, he had never thought that this is how somebody would be waiting for him and he would be going and serving there only. Okay, the whole night he would remain busy. He had no, actually, he had never thought about it. Still, less that it would influence his whole future in Blanley. Moreover, whatever happened during this night, he had never thought that after this night, his life will be totally changed. The two men walked in silence until they reached the door of number 12. Then Joe drew up short. Now, when they reached the house, Joe Morgan, who is the owner of the house, he stopped at the threshold of the door. Means he said, "No, I'm not going to come inside." "I will not come in," he said, and his voice showed signs of strain. "But man, I know you will do well for us." He said, "No, I can't see this condition. I can't wait now going inside and waiting for my baby. I will stay here in the street only. You go inside. I have full faith on you." Inside, a narrow stair led up to a small bedroom, clean but poorly furnished. So this shows your question can be for MCQ or some kind of question, that what kind of people they were, means what is the condition of these people. So they are actually poor people, though the house was neat and clean, poorly but clean furnished, and lit only by an oil lamp. This shows the poverty. Here, Mrs. Morgan's mother, a tall, grey-haired woman of nearly 70, and the stout elderly midwife. So midwife you can say as a nurse only. So there were two other ladies also along with would-be mother, first of all, Mrs. Morgan's, or we can say Joe Morgan's mother-in-law, or Mrs. Morgan's mother, or we can say would-be child's grandmother, or sorry, child's would-be grandmother, and then one nurse also, watching Andrew's expression as he moved about the room. And they both the ladies, they just were looking at the doctor, how he was examining the patient, and they were maybe expecting now what the doctor would say. "Let me make you a cup of tea, Dr. Batch," said the former quickly after a few moments. Now the doctor examined the patient and realizing something, this would-be grandmother, she said, "Doctor, I think I should prepare a cup of tea for you." Actually, batch word is, it's not nickname of the doctor. This is just a fondly, sometimes we, just to show love and endearment, certain words are used. This is one of them. Andrew smiled faintly. He saw that the old woman, wise in experience, realized there must be a period of waiting, that she was afraid he would leave the case, saying he would return later. Actually, maybe lady also got to realize that there is still some time for the baby to come, and then she thought that the doctor may say that I'm going home and I will come later, but actually this lady did not want the doctor to go. So that's why she wanted that the doctor should remain busy here sipping tea. "Don't fret, mother, I will not run away." So that's why the doctor said, "Don't worry, I'm staying here only." Down in the kitchen, he drank the tea which she gave him. Overwrought as he was, overwrought means overtired, very tired. As he was, he knew he could not snatch even an hour's sleep if he went home. Though he was very, very tired, but even then, actually doctor also calculated that he may not be able to take even 1 hour sleep if he goes home. So naturally he will have to come here again. So he thought that he would stay here only. He knew too that the case here would demand all his attention. A queer lethargy of spirit came upon him. He decided to remain until everything was over. An hour later, he went upstairs again, noted the progress made, came down once more, sat by the kitchen fire. It was still, except for the rustle of the cinder in the grate. So the coal burning sound was coming, otherwise, there was no sound. Actually, this is night time, there was no other sound. Okay, and the slow tick tock of the wall clock. So these two sounds were there. Okay, burning of the coal and then tick tock of the clock. No, there was another sound, but there was third sound also. Inside there were two sounds. There was third sound also. The beat of Morgan's footsteps as he paced in the street outside. So this you have to remember. The two sounds were inside the house. Third sound was where Joe Morgan was walking up and down in the street. So his footsteps. So you may need this information in some we can say MCQ question. So you have to take care of this. The old woman opposite him sat in her black dress, quite motionless, her eyes strangely alive and wise, probing, never leaving his face. This lady was sitting in front of the doctor in that kitchen only, and she was maybe continually looking at doctor's face. Maybe she was trying to read the expression of the doctor, okay, regarding the child. But the doctor actually, it's not that he was thinking about this would be mother or the child only. He was actually still lost in his own thoughts. His thoughts were heavy, muddied. Actually, his thoughts were not very happy thoughts at that time. Still, his thoughts were very heavy. Why? Actually, he had some arguments with his girlfriend. The episode he had witnessed at Cardiff Station. So maybe at Cardiff Station he had some arguments and the scene was still fresh, okay, in his mind. He was still thinking about that only. Still obsessed him morbidly. Morbidly means sad. Actually, he was still feeling sad because this scene was very fresh in his mind. He thought of Bramwell. Now here, when he is very sad, suddenly he starts thinking about his many friends and many acquaintances whom he had seen having very bad experiences with their life partners. Okay, so this is what suddenly he started thinking about other couples also. Though he had, we can say, some argument with his own girlfriend, but now he was thinking about others also. He thought of Bramwell, foolishly devoted to a woman who deceived him sordidly. Sordid, we can say, who is very selfish. So now he thinks about Bramwell, who is so devoted towards a woman, though this lady is very selfish kind of lady. Means this lady is not having true love for him. Then he starts thinking about Edward Page, bound to be shrewished, Blodwen. Blodwen is again maybe this Edward Page's wife or girlfriend. Okay, he thinks about Edward also, who is very much attached with that kind of lady who is very shrewish, very bad-tempered lady. This lady is, but still Edward is attached to her. Then he thinks about Denny, living unhappily apart from his wife. Then he thinks about Denny, who is living away from or apart from wife because maybe they had some fight. So now he thinks about all these couples who are not leading very happy married life. His reason told him that all these marriages were dismal failures. And now when he thought about all these people, he starts thinking that is it that all the marriages are failures only? Okay. It was a conclusion which in his present state made him wince. Wince means where he felt pain in his heart when he thought about all these and he came to one conclusion. So he felt very bad that is it so that all the marriages are like that only? He wished to consider marriage as an idyllic state. Yes, he could not otherwise consider it with the image of Christine before him. Actually, he always wanted to think that marriage is very idyllic state. Marriage is a beautiful thing to happen in one's life. And especially whenever he thought about Christine, his girlfriend who was very beautiful, he always wants to come to this conclusion that he wants to get married to this girl because marriage is blissful state. Her eyes, shining towards him, admitted no other conclusion. Though he had one fight or argument with Christine, but still, when he thought about Christine and her beautiful face, he wants to come to this conclusion only, that these are temporary phases, that you have fights, but otherwise, living with Christine would be a blessing. It was the conflict between his level, doubting mind and his overflowing heart, which left him resentful and confused. And now suddenly he was feeling confused, because if he listens to his mind that says that Christine is a beautiful girl and he should get married, but when he was using his reason and he was thinking about other people, he was coming to this conclusion that marriages are failure. He let his chin sink upon his chest, stretched out his legs, stared broodingly into the fire. Now he was in deep thoughts. Maybe he had forgotten where he was sitting, because he was again thinking about the couples only or the marriage only. He remained like this so long, and his thoughts were so filled with Christine that he startled when the old woman opposite suddenly addressed him. He was lost in his thoughts, that's why when this lady, he said something, he addressed him, then only he came back to this present. And he realized that he was sitting here as a doctor. Her meditation had pursued a different course. Okay, means naturally this is not her, this is misprinting his meditation. Means he was thinking deep about this marriage and Christine, and he had gone somewhere else. He had forgotten that he was sitting here in Joe Morgan's house. But suddenly now Joe Morgan's, this, or we can say, mother-in-law, she addressed this doctor, she said something, then he came back. And what this lady said? Susan said not to give her the chloroform if it would harm the baby. She's awful set upon this child, Dr. Batch. Now what the lady said? Actually, doctor might have told the midwife, okay, means the nurse, that at this particular time you are to give chloroform to the patient. And now this lady was saying that my daughter is reluctant to take the chloroform because she feels it will or it can harm the baby in the stomach. And she said, actually, we are really waiting desperately for the baby to come. Okay, we cannot take any risk for the baby. Her old eyes warmed at a sudden thought. She added in a low tone, hey, we all are, I fancy. Then firstly she said that my daughter was so desperately waiting for this baby to come. And then she added, it's not only my daughter, we all are waiting for this baby to come. Now really we don't want to take any risk with the baby. He collected himself with an effort. It won't do any harm, the anesthetic. He said kindly, they will be alright. But doctor said, don't worry, it's not going to harm. Here the nurse's voice was heard calling him from the top landing. Andrew glanced at the clock, which now showed 3:30. He rose and went up to the bedroom. He perceived that he might now begin his work. So he rushed for the patient, and whatever he concluded, whatever he saw, he concluded one thing, that now he should start his work. An hour elapsed. So maybe it means 4:30 now. An hour elapsed. It was a long, harsh struggle. Then, as the first streak of dawn straight past the broken edges of the blind, the child was born lifeless. Now, near about at 4:30, from the blinds, means from that curtain, he could see that this is dawn time, and at this time, the child came out, but the child was lifeless. He was not crying, he was not responding, he was lifeless. So the child was born, but he was lifeless. I think up to this, we will do in this first video. Rest of the chapter, we will conclude in the second video. Thank you.